Okay, so we've already done Kash Patel. Now we're going to do Tulsi Gabbard for the National Intelligence nominee by Trump. Now she's going to have a much harder time than Kash Patel. She's in some trouble. We're going to get into the specifics here. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. This is where the Happy Patriots are. I'm giving you guys the news every day. Must see stuff. Kash Patel. Now, Tulsi Gabbard.
I'm honored and grateful to President Trump for his trust and confidence in nominating me to serve our country as the Director of National Intelligence at a time when trust in the intelligence community, unfortunately, is at an all-time low. Chuck Schumer admitted a few years ago, quote, "You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you." For too long, faulty, inadequate, or weaponized intelligence have led to costly failures and the undermining of our national security and God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution. The most obvious example of one of these failures is our invasion of Iraq based upon a total fabrication or complete failure of intelligence.
Okay, that's criticism of the war in Iraq. True, unfortunately true. I do think amazing good stuff was done in that war, but you know, the war was not justified if you're doing it based on false pretenses. So she's criticizing our government, criticizing a failure in security, a failure in intelligence, and she's right. By the way, I think her silver hair thing looks beautiful and a really cool white outfit. I'll tell you why I have my doubts. I mean, I would approve her. I'm saying I don't think she's going to make it. Here's Senator Tom Cotton on her service, on how much he trusts her.
I'm dismayed by the attacks on Ms. Gabbard's patriotism and her loyalty to our country. For instance, Hillary Clinton has smeared Ms. Gabbard, calling her an asset of a foreign nation. Let me remind everyone that Ms. Gabbard has served in our Army for more than 2 decades. She has multiple combat tours, and she still wears the uniform to this day. She has undergone 5 FBI background checks. I spent more than 2 hours last week reviewing the latest, putting eyes on more than 300 pages. It's clean as a whistle.
So according to Tom Cotton, who I trust more than probably anyone in that room, he says she's clean as a whistle. Let's keep going.
It's fine that we have differences of opinions on policies and programs. I suspect some of my Republican colleagues might disagree with some of Mrs. Gabbard's votes in the House of Representatives, just as I suspect that some of my Democratic colleagues might criticize Ms. Gabbard's statements and actions since she saw the light and left the Democratic Party. But I sincerely hope that no one today will impugn Ms. Gabbard's patriotism and integrity.
On the Democrats, she used to be a Democrat. Okay, she was in that committee. I mean, she was in that same room as a Democrat. Well, now they're going to turn on her because she's no longer a Democrat. And just to be clear, whether if she was doing well in this hearing or whether if she did poorly, not one single Democrat would vote for her or RFK Jr. or Kash Patel. So this whole hearing has nothing to do with Democrats. It's everything to do with, will Republicans go for her? But here's some of the criticisms of the Democrats.
First, until you are nominated by the president to be the DNI, you consistently praise the actions of Edward Snowden, some who, I believe, jeopardized the security of our nation, and then, in an effort to flaunt that, fled to Russia. You even called Edward Snowden, and I quote here, a brave whistleblower. Every member of this committee supports the rights of legal whistleblowers. But Edward Snowden isn't a whistleblower. And in this case, I'm a lot closer to the chairman's words, where he said Snowden is, quote, an egotistical, serial liar and traitor who, quote, deserves to rot in jail for the rest of his life.
You guys can weigh in on what you think of Snowden. I gotta say, guys, I don't like it. I think he leaked information. Tulsi Gabbard's gonna say the same thing. She's gonna say that good stuff happened because that information was leaked. I agree. It does not justify law breaking. And I'll make my case on that and see if you guys agree. So I know that on the right, even among my audience, Snowden and trying to get him pardoned is a big push on my side. And I don't see him as the big hero.
Ms. Gabbard, a simple yes or no question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government
Excuse me, Mr.
that
Gabbard.
led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
I agree with her. Snowden caused serious reforms to happen in our intelligence, number one. Number two, he is a lawbreaker. It's no different than saying illegals that come over the border are lawbreakers, but they contribute something to society. See what I mean? You can't make that argument of Snowden contributed something to our society, therefore you have to look past his law breaking. So that's my position on it. I know it's kind of iffy. I don't feel real strong about it. I only know that I'm not rah Snowden like a lot of the other people on my side of the aisle. He doesn't keep me up at night or anything like that, but I also don't demand he be pardoned.
February 23rd, 2022, at the very moment that Russian tanks were rolling across the peaceful border of Ukraine for the first time, you tweeted at 11:30 p.m. your time, "This war and suffering could have easily been avoided if Biden administration / NATO had simply acknowledged Russia's legitimate security concerns regarding Ukraine's becoming a member of NATO." Did you say that, yes or no?
I believe you're reading my tweet, Senator.
Yes is the answer. A few months later, you said on your podcast, and I quoted it, quote, "But this regime change war against Russia that the U.S. and NATO are waging via their proxy in Ukraine didn't begin when Putin invaded Ukraine. They had their eyes set on this objective long before that." Did you say that, yes or no?
I believe you're reading my tweet.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot
the answer
more.
is yes.
You're quoting a podcast that provided
I'm
much
happy to have
more
a conversation
context.
with the chairman about whether I'm taking anything out of context. I don't think I am. And your answer is yes.
Now, on this one, I feel a lot different than the Snowden thing. I think people can have different opinions about the war between Ukraine and Russia. You have no obligation to purely endorse the country's position on it. And so I'm much more open to people that oppose the war or her opinion on Ukraine versus Russia, whatever they did. I have no problem with this. That is a free speech issue. It's not about, she's not talking about breaking the law or anything like that. And I would really defend her on this. I think there's a lot of people that would be against that war and might take her position.
Ms. Gabbard, there was an area that I believe is still uncertain, and this is what my question's about. Earlier this week, the Trump administration illegally attempted to withhold federal funds from a broad range of organizations. I'm interested in knowing what you would do if President Trump told you to withhold congressionally approved funds from the Intelligence Community Inspector General. So my question is, if President Trump orders you to withhold appropriated funds from the Inspector General, will you refuse that illegal order?
I don't believe for a second President Trump would ask me to do something that would break the law.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you are asked about an illegal order, what will you do? You can say, oh, it'll never happen. What will you do if you're dealing with an illegal order?
My commitment has been and will be, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, to comply with the law.
She's going to follow the law. I think that's a pretty easy argument.
Are there, Senator Wyden, you've actually asked two questions already, Senator
I'm not
Wyden.
asking a question.
You've asked two questions. I said there's one question allowed. Are there?
All done. Your questions are done. Now, Susan Collins. This is the tough one. She's a Republican. And I don't believe Tulsi Gabbard's going to get Susan Collins or Murkowski or Mitch McConnell's vote, just because I think Tulsi Gabbard is ending up being the toughest one on the pile. I think Kash Patel, after seeing his performance today, is going to be picked. RFK Jr., a little harder. And Tulsi Gabbard will be the hardest to get through. Here's Susan Collins. Remember, she's a Republican in Maine, and it's mostly anti-Trumpers and Democrats in her state.
As you know, there has been speculation in the press that you met with Hezbollah, a terrorist organization affiliated with Iran. Have you ever knowingly met with any members, leaders, or affiliates of Hezbollah?
No, and it is an absurd accusation.
Glad that Susan Collins, she set up a softball on that one. Very good.
Now, before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
Tulsi Gabbard may be a lot of things. You may disagree with her on her position on Ukraine, or I disagree with her on the position of Snowden. She's nobody's puppet, and I feel confident she'd do really well in that job. Next, after this clip, I'll tell you why I don't think she's going to win.
I have no love for Assad or Gaddafi or any dictator. I just hate al-Qaeda. I hate that we have leaders who cozy up to Islamist extremists, minimizing them to so-called rebels. As Jake Sullivan said to Hillary Clinton, quote, al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. Well, Syria is now controlled by an al-Qaeda offshoot, HTS, led by an Islamist jihadist who danced in the streets on 9/11 and who was responsible for the killing of many American service members.
And she went into the military and she fought against those people in person. She has a lot of credibility there. The reason why I don't think she's going to win also is she did not fight in the last couple of weeks for that job. She didn't come out in public and push, meeting all day, all night. That is what RFK Jr. did. RFK Jr. has a giant movement behind him. Kash Patel went and addressed everyone individually. Pete Hegseth worked harder than any of them and got his job. I didn't see that kind of effort put out by Tulsi Gabbard. Now she's going to go into her Hinduism also.
Democrat senators in the past resorted to anti-Christian bigotry against some of President Trump's judicial nominees like Amy Coney Barrett and Brian Boucher. I condemn those actions as a Democrat in Congress at the time, as religious bigotry must be thoroughly condemned by all of us, no matter the religion. Unfortunately, there are some Democrat senators who still don't understand the principle of freedom of religion and Article 6 of the Constitution. Quote, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Unfortunately, they're once again using the religious bigotry card, but this time trying to foment religious bigotry against Hindus and Hinduism. If anyone is sincerely interested in knowing more about my own personal spiritual path of Hinduism, I welcome you to go to my account on X, where I'll share more on this topic.
I don't believe in Hinduism. I don't like it. I really have to hold my nose on that one to vote for her. But that will show you how qualified I think she is. And not so much even formal Hinduism, but relativism, postmodern relativism. It's a relativist religion. So that's my beef with it. So I'm just trying to demonstrate that I'm against her Hinduism, but I would still vote for her.
If confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will continue to live by the oath that I have sworn at least 8 times in my life, both in uniform and as a member of Congress. I will support and defend our God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Now, my question to you guys, does she have a hope in heck of getting passed? Will she make it? I believe she'll get more than 3 no votes from Murkowski, Collins, and Mitch McConnell. If she gets a 4th no vote, that overrides. That means that they will join the Democrats and vote her down, and J.D. Vance won't be able to be a tiebreaker for her. So I don't think she makes it. I hope she does. What do you guys think in the comments below? Does Tulsi Gabbard pass this committee? I'm Doug in exile.